More than any other time in the past, we need to connect ourselves and children with nature and the environment. My name is Kevin O'Shea, and I'm an environmental educator who wants to connect all of you with a bit of inspiration. In each episode of the Nature Talks podcast, I'll talk to incredible educators, scientists, thinkers, and innovators who are connecting those around them to nature and the outdoors and inspiring new generations of environmental stewards. Welcome to episode 12 of the Nature Talks podcast. My name's Kevin O'Shea, and I'm so thankful, so happy that you're joining us again for yet another episode of the podcast. And if you're new to the Nature Talks podcast, welcome aboard. Thank you for stopping by. Muchly appreciated. Now, I want to give another big thank you, a shout out to Kenny PV for stopping by the last episode 11, as we kicked off season 2 of the podcast. It was a fantastic discussion where he talked so much about the importance of connecting children, students with the outdoors, why teachers should be doing it, and why spending time in nature should be such an important and crucial part of any curriculum, because students will always value from it. That was a great conversation. Again, you can go over to the Facebook page to check out all the links for Kenny and all that stuff. And this week we are here with episode number 12. And in this episode, I'm excited again to have another fantastic guest. Isaac Cohen took the time to join me to talk all about the incredible work he's been doing in this region of China and now Hong Kong, and to talk about the importance of urban ecosystems and how crucial they are and how nature is everywhere and biodiversity is everywhere. And I sat down with him and had a fantastic conversation. And you know what? I don't want to keep you guys waiting because you're here to learn, as am I. So let's find out more about Isaac Cohen, who is a biologist, a educator, and a wildlife photographer who does incredible stuff. Let's find out more about what's going on with him. All right, folks. Well, welcome to another episode of the Nature Talks podcast. And today I am very happy to have joining us a biologist, a biology teacher, a wildlife photographer. When I was living, or when I do live here in Shenzhen, when he was in Shenzhen, a contributor to different publications in the city and in the area, writing about biology, writing about wildlife, showcasing his photography. Welcome to the podcast. I'd like to welcome Isaac Cohen. Isaac, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very, very glad to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to have you here. Now, I first kind of came across you by seeing you in the newspaper, to be honest. Seeing you in the newspaper and seeing you online here in Shenzhen, China. I followed Shenzhen Daily on my WeChat subscriptions and would see your articles there and would see you in the newspaper. And that's really cool. But I guess we'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But I was wondering if you could tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and a little bit about your background in nature and biology.
Sure. So I am from Colombia. I'm a biologist. So when I was very young, I started getting involved into photography and nature because my father used to love taking pictures of everything, and is this kind of parenting skill of trying to make your kids believe that they are doing something amazing. So every time that I took his camera and take a picture, oh my God, your pictures are so good. That's the lie my father used to tell me. So it got me into photography. So I started like taking pictures of everything and getting my own camera. But I don't know, from the very beginning, I was very interested in taking pictures of birds. I don't know why. I love birds, and my country is basically a bird country. So you have birds everywhere, and very colorful and noisy and beautiful birds. So I started like focusing on that. And I was always like a nature lover. I used to love going out to the forest, to the woods, to the mountains, and to see animals and to enjoy nature. So I got involved into studying biology. and and go even deeper in learning about all of these animals and all of the interactions and the ecology. So that was pretty much how I like joined both circumstances, right? The photography and being a biologist and loving nature. And when you study biology, the teachers take you all the time to different mountains, to different parks, to different jungles, to explore and to study different kinds of animals. So that was like a really, really great opportunity to be there firsthand with the animals there and being able to enjoy them or to take a picture of them. It was a very, very great experience. So every time with the pass of the years, the feeling was growing deeper and deeper and deeper. Then I continued studying master's degree in science as well, and then I started working and studied a master's in education. So followed my career as a teacher.
Cool. Fantastic. Now that's amazing. And I got to meet you in person only once, and that was recently. That was at the end of June. You did a presentation here in Shenzhen about your work about the biodiversity. That was the folks of biodiversity in Shenzhen. We got to meet in person. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet you again after that because you left. You're in Hong Kong now. But maybe we will meet again soon. Who knows? We'll see. But okay, so I'm curious. So this path that you had this love of biology growing up, which I completely understand. You are from Colombia, which I've never had the fortune of visiting, but I'm constantly hearing in the birding community about how that is the place to go. I'm a big fan of the American Birding podcast with Nate Swick, the ABA podcast, and not only does he mention, but he often every week he has all these different guests who are, bird experts, biologists. And I just hear this again and again about this reoccurring theme of how amazing Colombia is and how many lifers you're going to get, if you're going to go to Colombia. So that's on my bucket list. That in Costa Rica, I would love to go there too, as well. I'm sure that kind of South American, Central American region, there's just so much, there I've never seen before. So someday. So now you became a teacher, you became an educator, and, now you're in Hong Kong, but you were in Shenzhen, China. So that's an interesting path from Colombia to Shenzhen, China. How did that happen?
All right. So when I started teaching in Colombia, I always wanted to try going internationally. So I wanted to, all of my family live in different countries. So I was the only one that were actually living in Colombia. The only one stayed in Colombia. So I was always looking for going abroad, right? I was looking for going to Canada because the government, Canada and Colombia, they have like a partnership and they always help each other. Like we need some people working in these areas or blah, blah, blah. And the visa process is super simple.
Okay.
So I was looking for a school in Canada and I was sending my resume to a school in Canada. And then this guy replied to me and he said, "Oh, Isaac, I like your curriculum. I have an opportunity for you. It's a Canadian school, but it's not in Canada. It's in China." And I was like, what? It never crossed my mind. Like China, is this for real? Like, are there opportunities to teach in China? I never had that idea in my head at all. So I started doing the research. So I started going surfing the web and reading, and then it's just like millions of opportunities popped up, and then I started. Okay, this is interesting. There's a wide community of teachers in China, and this is a thing. Like education, international education in China is a big deal. So then I started redirecting my search. Stopped looking for Canada and started sending in China. That was super interesting. Yeah, it sounded very interesting. I talked to my wife about it. She said, yeah, sure, let's go. So I started receiving like hundreds of applications and invitations, like, yeah, come here, we give you this, we give you that. I was like, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It all sounds very interesting and very amazing.
yeah.
So I got this school in Shenzhen, Shenzhen International Foundation College. They invited me to come with my family. We moved to China in 2017, and ever since I worked there. So I lived in Shenzhen, and I worked in the same school for 5 years, which was a very, very interesting experience. However, all of this situation with the pandemics and all the things that have changed in China, like the first 3 years were fantastic. We were super happy. We were enjoying our life and our time in China, and we were traveling and going to different countries in Southeast Asia. But then everything changed with the pandemics, and the situation became even more complicated with the pass of the time. And then this last semester was really, really difficult. And, everybody is feeling the same way. So we were looking for somewhere different to go. And then I got this invitation from Hong Kong International School, and I couldn't say no.
Yeah, no, fantastic. The one of the things that a lot of people out there in the world probably don't know, and I don't have experience with Hong Kong aside from the airport, but it is just a hub of biodiversity. I'm a follower of Hong Kong Snakes. What a fantastic Facebook group that is. And Hong Kong Bug City too, which is a great Facebook group. And oh my gosh, it's amazing what people find there. It's incredible. And I'm really envious of you. And I've shown a lot of videos about, with my students here in Shenzhen, when I'm trying to teach them about birds and the biodiversity of birds in Shenzhen, there's so much content that's already been created for Hong Kong that obviously the birds that are in Hong Kong, there's a pretty good chance that a lot of those are going to be in Shenzhen since we're just across the water. So I show them a lot of videos about birds in Hong Kong, and they're always excited to see those. But at Shenzhen, one of the things that I found, I want to touch on Shenzhen for a little bit, and I thought this was very cool, by the way. I'm trying to organize myself better. I'm a pretty disorganized person by nature, so I've started using finally my Apple Calendar, my iCalendar app, to try to organize different podcast interviews. And my daughter uses my iPad just to watch YouTube and stuff, and she said, "Dad, I see tomorrow you're interviewing Isaac Cohen." And I'm like, How do you know this? And she's like, he's the man I see in the Shenzhen or the Shenzhen Daily newspaper. My daughter's only 9, by the way. I'm like, that's awesome. Right. I'm like, how do you know that, Rena? And she's like, well, his name popped up on the iPad, and it says tomorrow you have an interview with Isaac Cohen. I'm like, yeah, that's right, iCalendar. She's like, yeah, and she said we get Shenzhen Daily newspaper. Our landlord drops it off each week, and she's like, I see he takes pictures of animals, right? I'm like, yeah. So I thought it was cool. My 9-year-old knows amazing. Who you are.
Awesome.
But so you're in Shenzhen for those 5 years, and one of the things when you gave your talk about biodiversity in Shenzhen that I was very impressed with so many things I learned that evening from you. But I was wondering if you could tell the listeners. A lot of people don't know where Shenzhen is. I'll be honest. Before I came here, I didn't even know where Shenzhen was. What makes Shenzhen special as far as someone who likes to carry a camera around and document biodiversity?
Well, it's actually surprising. Yes, I had exactly the same experience as you. When I moved to China, I was expecting to Shenzhen especially, I was expecting buildings. And this is what you have in Shenzhen, just buildings. And I was not expecting absolutely anything related to nature. It's just a mega city with thousands, millions of buildings and millions of people going around, and you will never expect to have that biodiversity. So it was very, very surprising for me when I just arrived. I started just going to the park, Central Park. I remember the first park I visited in Shenzhen, Central Park, because my hotel was very close. So I just sat down. I remember I sat down there with the camera. I was just taking pictures of whatever. It was my first day. And I started seeing some birds, and I remember the bulbul, seeing the bulbul for the first time. Yeah, which is a very, very beautiful bird, most common bird in Shenzhen, but it's very, very beautiful. So, I got fascinated. Let's take pictures of this guy, and then I saw magpie robin, black and white.
Oh, I love them. Love
Yeah.
them. They're one of my favorite. I love they're so musical, and they've got such a wide variety of songs and calls.
Yeah. So yeah, I just okay, this and that, and then I saw starling. So it catched my attention. Okay, just first day, probably my first 30 minutes in the park, and I saw like three or four, five different species of birds, and then okay, started taking the pictures. Now next time I go to a different park, see more things. Next time I go to a different park, see more things and more things and more things. And then I started like, okay, this is a big deal. Like the city has so many parks and so many protected areas that had made Shenzhen a very, very special place. It had created a heaven for this biodiversity. Yep. And then the location about the coastal area and all of this estuary that is being created between Hong Kong and Shenzhen and the Pearl River Delta, like all of this area is attracting a lot of birds during the migration time. And that creates an exchange of species and nutrients, and it makes it even richer and richer. So it's really fascinating. So despite Shenzhen being such a huge megalopolis, it has so many natural corridors and so many protected areas that life is there, life stay there. So I cannot help to imagine how it was before the city was built. Should have fascinating, like with even more species. I cannot imagine all of the species that are gone. Yeah, if we have all of these species staying, I cannot imagine how many species are gone. But the place is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean one of the things that I learned that's shocking about Shenzhen is that the city itself was only founded in 1979. I mean, I'm older than this city, which is crazy. And I mean, it went from, I think if my history is correct, it went from a town of about 16,000, and now it's like probably about 16 million. And I've seen photos of, and I've used them for like inquiry classes even with my kindergarten students, when I'm like, take a look at a picture of this city 40 years ago, VS now. And 40 years ago, it was fields and lush green mountains and green fields. I can't imagine. It must have been so spectacular. So, you're showcasing a lot of your photographic work on Instagram. And what I want to and you've got fantastic pictures, and your feed is it Cohen Wildlife?
Cohen Wildlife, yeah.
Cohen Wildlife. And there's going to be links to that in the show notes, folks. Go over and follow his Instagram. You've got a lot of gorgeous pictures. So what I'm curious about is how you see, how do you see photography as a way of connecting people with nature, with the natural world and conservation?
All right. So this is interesting because I'm not a fan of social media, or I was not a fan of social media, and I was not publishing any of my pictures in the past. I just used to take pictures and retain them on a hard drive. And then my wife just confronted me one day, like this wife confrontation. What are you doing with all of your pictures? You just have a hard drive full of pictures and pictures and pictures. And what are you doing with them? You're not doing anything with those pictures. Why don't you open an Instagram account and start posting them? And I was like, I don't know, I don't know. But then I said, okay, it sounds like a good idea, because that was when the whole pandemics started.
Yeah,
that was when I started the Instagram account. Like I had a lot of free time and I had thousands of pictures. So okay, I opened the account and I started in the beginning of 2020. So my Instagram, Cohen Wildlife, started the first publication on the 1st of January of 2020. That's day one. So I post a picture every day. Yeah. So I say like year 2020, day one. Yeah. Until the 364, 65, and then 2021, day one, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have it like that. That's how the Instagram is organized. So as yesterday is 2022, day 202, I think. Yeah. So when I started posting the pictures, I started to feel and to see the power of posting those pictures. So a lot of people started following. Yes, a lot of people started being like curious about it. So most of the people that follows my Instagram account is just people from somewhere else in the planet, right?
Yeah.
Like more bird watchers or just people who like animals and just follow random Instagram accounts for wildlife. But there's other people that are just regular people living in Shenzhen, yes, or living in China, right? Like regular citizens. And they started asking, like, wow, is this in Shenzhen? Is this in China? Did you take this picture in the zoo, right? So most of the people started asking those questions. So I started seeing there was like natural interest from people to know about this wildlife in the city. And they were fascinating about it. And they were like surprised. Yep, they couldn't believe that, for example, I remember when the first time I posted a monkey, and everybody went crazy. Like, is this in the zoo? You took this picture in the zoo? I was like, no, it's not in the zoo. It's in the city. There is a mountain in the middle of the city, and there is two groups of these rhesus monkeys in that mountain. So you can go and see them anytime. And people's like, oh, this is unbelievable. And the first time I published a snake, everybody went crazy. There's snakes in Shenzhen. I can't believe there's snakes in Shenzhen. No way. Where did you see it? There in the park. No, I go to that park every day. Yeah. So I started feeling the power of the picture, in the mind of the citizens. So that gave me like more, I don't know, like boosting my need to show and to take more pictures and to find more species. So I was, it's like Pokemon hunt, right? So you go
real life Pokemon.
Like, yeah. So I was trying hard to find different species. Yes, different and more, and every time that I catch, oh yeah, there it is.
By the way, I'm wearing a Pokemon shirt right now. I just stood up and showed Isaac on Zoom. I'm wearing a Pikachu t-shirt.
Yeah, so I feel like that, I feel like when I remember when my friends started playing this Pokemon Go and trying to find these little things. I never played, by the way, but I knew about the game. So I feel that way. Every time that I go out with my camera, I feel that way. I feel that I am trying to find something new and capture it in a picture, right? So I started following the local photographers and just follow them throughout the city. If somebody finds something new, I will just go there super fast and try to find it, try to capture them, post it, and wait for people's reaction. Then that was with the Instagram account. And then one day there was this That's magazine. I follow That's magazine. That's Shenzhen on the WeChat accounts, and they posted like they were looking for an intern, right?
Okay.
And then I said, okay, I'm going to try this, and I sent them an email. And I told them, I'm not looking for the position. I don't want to be an intern in your magazine, but I do this. I take pictures of nature, and I would like to write something about ecology and biodiversity in Shenzhen. I don't know if you guys are interested, blah, blah, blah. And then they like the idea. They contacted me back and say, yeah, okay, we are going to give you, you can write an article and we can post it in the magazine. The magazine goes every month. Yes. Okay. So I started writing some articles about like the importance of biodiversity or how biodiverse Shenzhen is. I wrote an article about the snakes in Shenzhen or the water resources that we have in Shenzhen. That was for that magazine, That's Magazine. 6 articles in total, I think I wrote for them until I was contacted by the newspaper. Okay. Yep. And then the people from the newspaper contacted me because I participated in the contest, the expats photo contest, and I posted some pictures of some animals in Shenzhen. So I won second prize in that competition. And then they say like, oh, why don't you start writing articles for us as well? And that's how Discover Shenzhen was born. That's the name of the column, Discover Shenzhen. So I started posting one different species every weekend. Yep. So pictures of the species and a description with a very, very friendly language. So everybody can read it, kids or adults or whatever. And it has a audio, right? And it's written in both English and Chinese. I don't do the Chinese part, but they help me doing it. So yeah, we post some pictures or a video and the description of the species, and it goes a different one every weekend. And not this weekend, but the next one, the following weekend, is going to be the 50th edition of Discover Shenzhen. Cool. And that way, I have reached or being able to reach a lot of different people. Yeah. And it's very powerful. It's very powerful. Getting people interested in nature, and I started receiving a lot of requests. Oh, Isaac, can I go with you one day to see the animals? Or, oh, Isaac, can I send my kids with you one day to see the animals? Or can you please show me these pictures or help me with a speech here or there? I was invited to a couple of schools in China. I went to a school in Guangzhou. I went to a school in Shanghai. A university in Shenzhen invited me to give some speech to the students about biodiversity. Even an international seminar from the Chinese Photographers Association invited me to give a speech on biodiversity and photography. So it's pretty cool because I have been able to reach a lot of people through photography.
Wow, fantastic. And that kind of leads me into this next question. When you think about it, I mean, obviously your passions are very clear and you've got incredible reasons behind your passions. If you were to the audience of this podcast are mostly like educators, teachers, administrators, people working not just in international schools, but working in school districts in Canada and America, the UK, wherever they may be. I'm wondering what kind of, for those people out there, why should the people listening to this podcast spend more time getting outdoors and learning about biodiversity where they are? Big question. Boom.
Well, it's a big question. Yeah. Biodiversity, it's very important. It's basically what keeps our world running. Yep. The more diverse an ecosystem is, the more stable that ecosystem becomes. Yep. So our ecosystems are very fragile, especially urban ecosystems. Yes. It's not easy to keep an urban ecosystem running. Yeah. Most of urban ecosystems collapse. Yep. And that's when you can see in different cities in the world, you just find rats, mosquitoes, flies, right? That's what it's left from the collapse of the ecosystem. So by knowing the species that you have, by knowing what is on your ecosystem, you can help protecting. When we are showing the people what we have, people start being more conscious about it, and people start protecting the animals, protecting the spaces, or even you can reach the government. Who knows, right? The government starts being aware of the situation and maybe protecting some areas. That will help protecting our planet in the future. I know it's a very how to say it, you're trying to embrace too much. It is.
Well, I just posted an episode of the podcast, episode 10, where it was basically a little solo episode with me talking about something I studied in one of my environmental education courses at university about eco-anxiety, and how a lot of children these days are suffering from eco-anxiety because they constantly hear on the news all this, and there is a lot of doom and gloom, and the news loves to share the doom and gloom side of things. And a lot of children feel helpless and they feel pissed off, to be honest, that their moms and dads and their grandmas and grandpas are leaving them a world that's, like literally burning. When you look at Spain and Portugal and things like this, what's happening there with the wildfires. And, I talked to my son about this, who's 12, and he's coming to me being very honest about how he has felt very unhappy about this kind of situation and eco-anxiety. And we talked about, and psychologists say this, but I've heard this from other people, that, with the kids, the best way to talk to them, and I think with anyone, is like saying the small things. When you do small things, those build up and they matter. Sustainable living, taking beautiful pictures of local wildlife and sharing it. Right there, like you said, there's so many people in Shenzhen who didn't know these animals were there. They thought you took these pictures in a zoo, and now they know. And now they know that there's beautiful wildlife in the city. And I think right there, that opens up a lot of possibilities for them, maybe being the next protectors or the people who spread the word. I think of my own, my Instagram feed's pretty small, but I'm big on Twitter. I mean, I use Twitter a lot more. And I think of all the years I've taken pictures, even of just like of plants and animals with my phone, and share those. I've had people over the years say, Kevin, because of your pictures, I started going out and taking pictures. And now I'm teaching my kids how to learn it. And now, because I'm a bug guy, I'm really into entomology. I'm a huge bug nerd. And I've got people who are like, because of your pictures of bugs, I started touching bugs or hunting for bugs. And now I'm teaching my kids how to collect bugs. And when I hear that, I'm just like, wow, I did it. Like, that's it. That's like, if I was able to create one or two more bug lovers because of my Twitter, I'm winning. And I feel really proud of myself. Because it is
amazing. Little by little, So it's a very ambitious project, right? But imagine if all of these people that are listening can start doing the same in their cities, and then somebody starts discover Vancouver or discover LA, discover London. I don't know. And then we start having this huge worldwide project where people in different cities in the planet starts showing what there is in each of these cities. And then we are probably finding new species, probably showing the world things that nobody ever imagined that you could ever find in one of these places, right? Most of the projects in ecology and biology are focused on natural places like jungles, mountains, rivers, but not in urban ecosystems. And the importance of urban ecosystems and urban biodiversity is bigger than what we can imagine, right? It can help, or it can be a trigger to a better protection, mechanisms for all of these biodiversity.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So you hear that out there, folks. Get out there, get outside. Yeah, I don't want to keep you much longer. I know you've got things you need to do today. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to stop by. But so as I always like to kind of wrap things up with, how can people find your work online? We've mentioned your Instagram, but if you want to mention that again or anywhere else you are online, where can people take a look at your pictures and find out about the things that you're doing?
Yeah. So if it's on Instagram, it's Cohen Wildlife. That's what I post my pictures, a daily picture. I'm doing it for Shenzhen, still doing it for Shenzhen. But once I start exploring here in Hong Kong, I will switch it to daily picture of Hong Kong and probably start my Discover Hong Kong. But I will still be working on Discover Shenzhen with the newspaper. So if you are in China, you can find it on the Shenzhen Daily and iShenzhen. The column is called Discover Shenzhen. It also goes published in the Shuesi webpage, which is the government, the Education Bureau of China. That's only in Chinese. That's only in Chinese. But yeah, mostly it's Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram, yeah. Cohen Wildlife.
Cool. I'll share all those links on the show notes for this podcast, on the Facebook page, on my Twitter, all that stuff, so you guys can follow Isaac. Isaac, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by and talk to us. And maybe once you're more settled into Hong Kong and start learning more about the biodiversity in Hong Kong and discovering some of the cool stuff there, we can get you back on the podcast and find out about all the neat stuff you're doing there.
Amazing. That will be my pleasure. Thank you very much, Kevin, for the invitation. I'm very happy to talk here in your podcast, and I am happy to share my experience with so many people around the globe. And I really hope that there's more people in the future doing something similar or doing the same and trying to make this world a better place.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I would like to thank Isaac for taking the time to stop by the Nature Talks podcast to share his experiences, his insights, his ideas. Fantastic discussion, very important things. You, of course, can go over and follow his incredible photography, and I really do recommend that you go and follow him on Instagram at Cohen Wildlife, and there will be links on the Facebook page and on my Twitter and all of those places, and down below in the show notes. So the show notes are the text you find at the bottom of this podcast. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify, it's all that information that's attached to the episode. You'll see it all there, all the important links to click on. Of course, you can find his articles in Discover Shenzhen. Links will be included. That's from the Shenzhen Daily newspaper. So yeah, go check all those out, follow Isaac and see what he's up to. Now he's getting settled into Hong Kong, and I see he's already producing incredible photos of life over there in Hong Kong. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before we wrap this episode up. Of course, I would love to build more community with the Nature Talks podcast listenership. You guys, I'm talking to you. Come on over and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Nature Talks podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Mad for Maple. I'm pretty active there. I'm active on both places. And I'm active on Insta as well at Shenzhen Wildlife. All those links will be in the show notes. But if you come over to that Facebook page, it is growing. There will be lots of links to the show, where to find the show, more information about the guests than I share here, photos, videos of local nature, my nature photography, wildlife photography, things I'm seeing, articles about the whole nature movement, about climate change, climate action, sustainability, ideas for teaching sustainability to children, to your colleagues, and a whole lot more will be over there on that Facebook. I'm hoping to really make that the kind of hub of the Nature Talks podcast. Yeah, so that's it. Follow all those things, there are lots of great photos and videos over on my Insta as well. So yeah, that's it for another episode of the podcast. Remember, no matter where you listen to us, to please give us an amazing rating. Give us that 5-star rating. Please write a review of the Nature Talks podcast. Help us grow. Help us get bigger. There's a lot of education podcasts out there. This one, maybe a little niche, and that's what I'm hoping for, because I think it's a big niche. We really need to spread the word and the message that these amazing guests I'm talking to have to share. And then of course share us out, help us grow by you guys doing the grassroots work. If you're on Twitter, please tweet the links I share, retweet what I tweet about the podcast. If you're on Facebook, please share the podcast on your Facebook, your links. If you're in different teacher groups, education groups on Facebook, please let them know about the Nature Talks podcast, the environmental education podcast. No matter where we are, please help us grow. It's the grassroots listeners that can really help this show grow in a big way, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate all of you for taking the time to listen. I appreciate you all for taking the time to download this episode and each and every episode. And that's it for this week. My name's Kevin O'Shea. I'm an environmental educator, a primary educator living in Shenzhen, China, just living life, enjoying life, and outside collecting bugs whenever I can and enjoying the nature. And I hope that you're enjoying nature where you are, and I hope you're finding ways to connect to yourself, your family, your friends, your students, and all those around you with a little bit of nature. Okay, folks, take care, be happy, and be healthy, and I'll be talking to you again very soon.